Good day, everyone. My name is Kevin Dupree. I'm joined with Alex Geller from Solver BI360 for the third session of our three-part series on corporate performance management using the BI360 product. Today we're going to be focused on budgeting and forecasting. I know that it's for FP&A people out there. It's getting on that season to start getting ready to push budgets on out to department heads and other people within your firm to start the budget season again. And that's typically when we start seeing people looking at a solution like BI360, namely because of some of the challenges that you just have with Microsoft Excel. As a budgeting tool, great tool, but broken formula or broken links, incorrect formulas, copy and paste issues, consolidation issues, everything else that kind of comes along with that. I think we've all felt that pain from time to time. I know in my former controller days, that was always a particular season of the year that I dreaded. But we're here to help you and show you how we can make that budget season a lot easier. So let me just do a real quick introduction of our firm. And Alex, if you could just kind of bump to the next slide there. So our firm, and if you've been on the other sessions, apologize for a repeat, but there's some new folks on here. FMT Consultants, we're a Southern California-based company, but actually have clients kind of all over the United States and Canada. We're about 85 people strong today. And looking to continue to grow our practice. We've been in business now for 21 years, just past that anniversary a couple days ago. We've been in this space a long time, and so we have a ton of successful clients and successful projects. And for those of you that are new to FMT, we hope to add you to our roster of clients and love to be supporting you there. If we can talk just real quick about some of the capabilities of our firm, our core values. These bullet points, while most people will look at it as like marketing material and things like that, these are core values that we're living each and every day. Actually, every candidate that applies for a job with us there's questions around these things to make sure that they're a good fit for our organization. But we do what we say we're going to do. We're committed to making sure that every customer is satisfied. With every project that we're working with our clients, we work as one team, and that's a team of our people and your people as well to try and drive out a solution. And those solutions are, they kind of fit like a glove. They're innovative. We leverage as much of the out-of-the-box capabilities as possible, but if there are some things that we need to make it work a certain way, we certainly can do that. And obviously we're excited and passionate about what we do. So those are kind of the core values there. If I can take it to the next slide and just talk briefly about why us, what are our differentiators. The big thing is what we call the FMT way. It's a combination of our methodology, those core values that I was just talking about, our people, since we're a consulting firm, our people are our product. And for this, what we're here to talk about today on the FP&A side of things, we have very deep experience. Most of the people that we have on staff that are working in enterprise resource ERP are former controllers, people that worked in FP&A and finance areas before, and then also some folks that worked on the operational side of things. We're not here to talk about manufacturing and things like that today, but certainly have some folks on that side there, and we're able to kind of bring not only the BI360 solution in and deploy it, but we're able to make sure that it's completely integrated with everything else that you guys are running inside your operations. And then finally, once we finish a project, we have 13 people that are in our solution and support services group. It's our post-implementation end-user support team that are available from 6 in the morning till 6 at night. That's Pacific time, so you can kind of do the time calculations for the folks that are in the Central Time Zone, the East Coast, etc. And I think I got one last slide here, if I remember correctly. Oh, two more. Sorry. And So while I talked about our recognitions, what we talk about internally and kind of how we feel we're different than everybody else, we've actually been recognized by a couple different folks as far as the best places to work. Happy employees turn out to be people that turn out successful, happy projects. And then certainly the customer service awards that we won there are pretty key to us as well. And then lastly here is just kind of a small subset of some of the clients that we have that are using the BI360 tool today. We're happy to go ahead and put you in touch with those folks to talk to them about their experience using the tool. And then with that, I'm going to introduce Alex Geller, and Alex is going to take us through the rest of the presentation today on the budgeting and forecasting side. Real quick, Joe, though, just a real quick housekeeping thing. If you have questions during the presentation on the GoToMeeting panel there, you can actually enter or type in a question. I'll be monitoring that throughout the presentation and answering what I can through the question pane. And then if I can't answer something, we're going to have some time at the very end that Alex will be able to take some questions there. So as questions pop on up in your head, just type them into that question box, send them on over, and I'll either get you an answer or right away, or we'll get you an answer by the end of today's session. And then lastly, if for some reason you missed the previous two sessions, those are out on our YouTube channel, but we can certainly send you some links to those things as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alex. Alex, the floor is yours.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kevin, and thank you everyone for joining today. What I want to just quickly go through the PowerPoint that most of you have seen already, just to outline the architecture and how the budgeting component would fit within our suite. And really what we'll focus the majority of the time today is show you from an end user's perspective how they're going to be entering data and how the experience is going to be like. As a company, Solver BI360 has a little over 1,500 customers at this point. We're growing very quickly, and really what we've seen is the growth originating from customers that are saying, all right, I like the formatting and formulas of Excel, but I hate the fact that links are breaking, it's not connected to a database. And what they're doing, some of them are looking in the marketplace, and they're saying the majority of tools are cloud-based, which is great, but what about the existing templates that I have? Can I continue building those or build more? And what they'll ultimately find is those are very technical tools, many of which you have to learn MDX. With our tool, if you already know Excel, you really have a leg up, and the barrier to entry is much lower to learning how to create these budget forms yourself. And also, since it's Excel, anything you currently do in Excel, we can replicate, but the point of today is show you how we can really optimize it. And, on the Gartner list, which qualifies some of the top companies in our space, we're really the only one that's Excel-based and that has that live integration to Great Plains, because that's the majority of our customer base, and we really specialize in that. Now, what does the entire architecture look like? And this is the last slide before I show you the product. For the people that sat in on the last demos, what you already saw was the fact that you can report live off GP. Okay, so when you post a journal entry, you see that. And for companies that are just loading data from Excel to GP, and they really are not looking for a budgeting tool, that's fine. But the reason you're on the call today is, hey, we want to automate that process. So the way that works is what you'll do is, regardless of whether you deploy in Excel or on the web, you're going to create your actual template in Excel. So what you'll do is you'll start by creating a report, and then you'll turn it into an input form. So which fields do you actually want to enter data? And that's this component right here. Now, when your end user actually enters data, that could store back into our data mart. And by the way, if you guys already have existing warehouses, completely fine. You can look at this as just a subset, really a data mart for budgeting. And you could, store it in here. And then for, I want to say a little over 30% of companies, they need to push that data back into GP. So we would go through and push it back into the GP tables. Now, what's neat is because you have that reporting and planning tool in one place, you can quickly, within the same tool, do an actual to budget report. And what we found in the marketplace is if you start asking companies, which reporting tools do you use, what do you use for budgeting, you typically go and find they use MR, SSRS, Excel with links that break in Excel. They have analysts spending hours going through and looking up formulas. And the point is, hopefully what I'll illustrate today is you have one unified solution for inputting your budget data and then reporting actuals to budget. And then the last piece here, something we're not going to focus on today, is dashboarding. But what I will show you, the dashboarding actually comes with the portal. And the portal is what we'll start off with. That's where your end user can view the reports and dashboards and budget. So without further ado, like I said, I'm not going to focus on the reporting piece today, but really from an end user's perspective, we'll start with the web, so how can they input data, and then we'll move in and show you how they can do it in Excel. It's not an either-or situation, but one of the benefits of having FMT here as a partner is they're familiar with your systems. A lot of times they're familiar with your processes, and they'll sit down and understand what's a better fit for you based on your reporting and budgeting needs. All right, so let's start. Let's pretend that you're done creating your templates. How is your budget user going to push the data back? What I'll do is I'll exit out of here, and I'll open up Internet Explorer. For those of you guys familiar with this interface, same thing as with reporting and budgeting. You're logging in here, and the reason it's the same thing is because really the value proposition here is you have all of your data in one place. So what we took a look at in the previous examples here, you have your dashboards here, graphical interpretations of your data. You have your reports, which you can go in and see if I'm looking at a P&L, not to repeat myself from last session, but if I'm looking at this P&L here and I'm saying, great, maybe in September, here's how my actual did, and here's my budget month. And maybe I want to go through, drill into this number. I can do all that analysis here in a report. Okay? But the question for today is, great, but where's this budget coming from? And what I'll do is I'll go back and say, great, we're done analyzing our data. What I want to do now is go into my budget. Okay? And here, by the way, you see a lot of various templates. This is really important. Everything I'm going to be showing today, it's just for demo purposes. So these are just sample templates that we created. But needless to say, you'll be able to customize this based on your own business requirements. And starting off with a really simple template, and then we'll move it to something more complex. Let's go in and say, hey, we want to forecast for the rest of the year. So you can pick your company. And by the way, this is where security kicks in. So I registered as Corp in the demo, and based on this, I'm assigned to specific companies, specific departments, and you can even lock it down by account and journal entry. So security is outside of GP and can really get as granular as you need it. So you can pick your company, pick your department. Again, if I'm limited to seeing one or two departments, those are the only ones I'll be able to see. And let's say, right now it's September, and what we want to do is forecast for the remainder of the year. Okay? So for the last 3 months. I can expand this. Really simple. Pulls 9 months of actuals out of Great Plains. Okay, and now you can go through input data for your forecast. You could type it in, you could use some formulas, then you go through and you store that data back into the database. Now, what's the advantage of doing this? Well, the advantage is, now let's say it's October and you want to reforecast for November. Great. Instead of going in and finding a report and copy and pasting, all you do is say, great, it's now October, let's refresh this, and it automatically fills up October with actual data. Now, you can see how this can save you some time, but now multiply that for every single department, company, forecast version, and you really see how this is going to start saving you some time. So if I wanted to run it, say, for different department, or instead of forecast, now I want to do, forecast version 2 or something like that, I select those as parameters, and now get a brand new template that I can input. So, we're done with our forecast. I'll show you many more templates, but here's an example. We have an assumption template, a personnel that feeds into it, capital expense, and both financial and operational budgeting. Now, what is operational? I mean, here's a perfect example. May or may not be relevant to your business, but perhaps if you budget by price and quantity, it's going to be very relevant. What you do is you pick your company. You can even pick your sales reps. And really important, if this field doesn't exist, right, in your current GP system, you're going to be able to create it inside of our data warehouse manager. And let's say what we want to do is budget the quantity and the gross margin for maybe these customers and the products that those customers purchase. So we'll expand this out. We can see the customers, the products that they typically purchase, the sales, the COGS, and gross margin. Now, what we're really interested in is budgeting that by month. And by the way, for you, this could be by week. We can even handle budgeting by day if that's something you're doing. And the point of this is everything in yellow you input. So if I want to go into quantity here, maybe what I want to do is say, 950 is how many of these we're going to buy. Click OK. You can see the sales change and the COGS change. But what we really want to do is keep that gross margin to, say, 35%. So when I click Enter, the cost of goods sold adjusts accordingly. And then you can go in and do that for any single one of your products for any single month. Okay. And then, you're done. Great. You can click a Submit button. In a second here, I'll show you how workflow is set up. And then all of these templates are, in essence, stored back in a database. And then right below it, you can have a set of reports. So here's an example of a dashboard that will go in, and maybe after you're done with your budgeting process, you can see the expenses by your department, top expenses, and the point of this is you can go in and say, hey, I'm interested in sales and marketing, and you can see how the trend looks in a graphical way. Okay. In addition to these dashboards, if you actually want to see not a graphical interpretation, but a report of your budget, right below, you can create specific reports that show you what your budget manager's input. Now, I'm going a little out of order here, and that's really because all of these concepts I'll go through and show you in Excel again. The purpose of getting you guys introduced to this is saying, hey, you could actually now budget on the web. So you don't have to worry about VPN, citrusing in, and so forth. For companies with multiple locations, perhaps for companies that have sales and marketing guys budgeting, this would be a better option than Excel. For companies where the budgeting process is central, Excel is probably going to be the best option for you. And by the way, all of these, yeah, you can just input data, but what you can also do is store line item details. Okay? And maybe just go back in and show you a quick example of that on the web here. So if I find one of these templates, oh, actually I'm moved a little too far. So if I find one of these templates, what I could do, same concept here. I pick my month, I expand it out, and I'm a solution architect, so a lot of these templates already have data, but for you, it would be blank. And what you could do is right-click and store your line item detail. Oh, sorry about that. Got bad internet here. Give me one sec. All right. So, same template here. Sorry about that. We see 12 months of data that I'm going to budget to. If I scroll over to the right, since I picked up September, 9 months of actual and 3 months of forecast. And guess where that forecast is coming from? That forecast is coming from the very first template that I showed to you. So you really are not worrying anymore about links in Excel. It's now a completely different system. And inside of any of these cells, if you right-click or double-click, you can see inside of special events, what you can do is model this. So you can take current year date plus forecast, use that as a baseline. You can add line item details, and you can do that for any of your accounts. Okay? Again, something I'll show more of once we get into Excel. Okay? But before I proceed, just note, I'm not going to be going through this extensively in this demo, but we do have full workflow. And if I look at one of these templates, that's just kind of a PowerPoint of it, because we have a lot of people going into this portal to demo. If we look at this example and expand it out a little bit, and what you see is we have the various users over here on the left-hand side, the progress they've made on all the templates that were assigned to them. And you can see, some of these people have capital expense hidden, so they're not going to be able to see it when they log into this portal. You can see when they are working on something, when they click an approve button, which is over here on the right-hand side, it's going to say, great, they're finished. Now you as an administrator go in, approve their template, and when you click save, it pushes it now back to the database, and it'll say completed here. Okay, so you can really manage who, when is pushing data back. And for the technical folks in the room, our warehouse does timestamp everything. So if you wanted to run an analysis to say, when did the user update their budget, when are they inputting new information, you can easily draw that out of the database. What I want to do next is transition out a little bit. Really the point here is from a deployment methodology, you can go in, view dashboards, view reports, and exact same template with full workflow, store both your operational and financial forecast and budget. Didn't do this with a particular order because, again, I'm here just to show you the functionality. You're going to be able to create a very logical progression to how and who stores this data. Now, what I want to do, transition into Excel, so maybe close out of here. And when I open Excel, notice how, again, regardless, and I'll repeat this a few times, of where you deploy, the actual creation of these templates happen in Excel. And it's a huge advantage because typically you have centrally the Office of Finance or Accounting creating this, and they're used to Excel, but the people storing, might not be. And if they're not, then the web's a good option. If they are and it's central, Excel's the best option. So a lot of the concepts are going to be really similar to what you saw on the web. And just to make sure we kind of compare apples to apples, I'll actually start off by showing you the forecasting template that I just showed you on the web. Notice how all of this is Excel because it's an add-on, which means you can do all formatting and budgeting, all formatting and formulas that you do in Excel. What I'll do here, I'll go into assignments. For the people that were in the previous session, assignments is really your library where you keep all of the reports and also those forecasting and budgeting templates. All of these, by the way, that I'm going through, very standard templates that we have available, and we have them for various industries. Now, although this will help you in implementation, there's still a component where you're going to have to customize this. And everything I'm showing you today, you can absolutely add columns, customize. These are just starting points. You're by no means glued into this stuff. And to start, I'll do a forecasting template for the remainder of the year, just to compare how it looks in Excel and the web. What I immediately noticed for the people in the last class here, I have the reporting module. And this is where I created this, and I just added some minor functionality and created the ability for end users to actually store data back as opposed to just viewing the report. Okay, so here what you'll see is based on the company, the department, the month we picked, it's going to provide that specific information. So I have really just one spreadsheet instead of many. And what I'll do for this example here is maybe I'll go in and say, we want to use forecast version 2, and it's currently September. Click OK, run, and then based on the parameters I select, it's going to go in, give you corporate US, give you finance and accounting, give you forecast version 2. If I wanted to change the department, say I'm actually in charge of sales and marketing, click OK. Unfortunately, finance and accounting doesn't have any revenue here. But if I switch departments, you can see that it now goes in and gives you, for sales and marketing, 9 months of actual data. Okay, it's coming from GP, and 3 months that I can forecast out to for both revenues and expenses. And the way I forecast, I could just type it into Excel. I could use formulas. So if I want to do an average formula of last year, and over on the right-hand side we brought last year's data, you could bring in 2 years, 3 years, whatever is relevant for you, and maybe you want to increase the run rate by 20% or something. Great. We're done. Then we go and save that back into the database. So let's just, for the people that are coming off of Excel as opposed to another tool for budgeting, what's the advantage of doing this? Because, hey, you can do this in Excel. Here's really simple. Now it's November. In Excel, you'd have to take the data from Management Reporter or whatever reporting tool, copy and paste, change the forecast version, change the division, and before you know it, you have about 5 or 6 different spreadsheets just to forecast that are not protected. Here, what you do instead is you go in and you say, great, it's now a different month, click run, and it will automatically replace October with actual data. And then you can reforecast if necessary and store it to a different forecast version. Okay. Want to transition a little bit, really simple template. Now, a lot of you, requested and said, hey, I want to actually see my payroll. This is great from forecasting. Now, what I want to transition and show you is how a budget manager perhaps would store some assumptions and how the department heads would use those to budget their full and part-time employees. So transition out a little bit, go back into my library here. Okay. And this is going to be locked down, so just really the budget managers would be the ones that have access to store the assumptions. Okay. So what I'll do here is go back and open up some of these templates. You can see a start and end date, by the way, so end users cannot input data after a certain day. You can see the status. Same workflow that we saw on the web, you can manage in Excel to track who's actually creating your data. Now, here's an example for assumptions for taxes, benefits, for capex, some travel assumptions. But this is really important. This could be your driver for anything. It doesn't have to be your payroll. This is just the example. You can use this maybe for your revenue drivers that are very complex. You can use this and say, hey, what happens if the economy doesn't do that well? Or it does well? How does that feed into my balance sheet and P&L? Exact same concept that I'm going to show with the assumptions that flow into payroll. I'm just limited with time here, so I decided to show you those examples. So I'll run it, and as a budget manager, I look at all this, and what I really want to do is go in and say, hey, my FICA rate is going to be 7.21, and I want my department heads, when they calculate taxes and benefits, I want this to be, the new FICA rate. So I'll go in and as a budget manager save this. This is also, again, right, where you can go in and say, hey, these are the percentages for how I think the economy is going to grow. And after I'm done with this, I'll go back and now, think about it. We'll do both the top-down and bottom-up approach, depending on what your company does. Starting off, we'll do more of a kind of bottom up and say, hey, each department head is going to input his or her own information. So they'll go in, they'll go into the personnel form, and if they're just assigned to one or two departments, again, I'm an administrator, so I have access to everything, but they'll only be able to see those departments. And I'll go in, and just for this example, we'll say administration. Okay, click OK, run this, and now for administration, breaks down their full-time, part-time employees here. Everything in yellow you input, and it goes through and calculates everything else. What does that mean? So from a real experience, let's say I'm a department head, I'm in charge of administration. What I want to do is go through, budget some full-time and part-time employees and see how they push back to my general ledger. And Ian here, great. He's actually going to promote it to administrative assistant. He's doing a really good job. Maybe that's going to happen in March of next year. And unfortunately, Ian already told me he's really interested in going to business school, so he's going to be leaving the company in November. But if he does a really good job, what we want to make sure and do is incentivize him to come back. So in June, we'll give him a percentage increase. Now you can also do a dollar increase. The point of having this column in this example, you're not limited to any of this. Really flexible. If you want to add a column for 401k or something like that, you can set that up. Now I'll add a bonus here, say for commission, and then say, great, he's also eligible for benefits here. They could scroll down and do that for my part-time employees too. Also, really neat here, if you want to go in and say, hey, we're going to hire a contractor, notice how the hire dates are coming from the payroll system. And this is really important. Any data outside of GP that you need to budget, you can bring into our data mart. And I'll finish the presentation by going back into the architecture and illustrating exactly what that means. But to go back, we want to hire a contractor. Maybe we want to say, great, it's going to be, he's going to work 2,000 hours at this rate. And when I do that, it goes in and says to be hired number 1. So when I actually do hire someone, this is going to change and replace their name. Okay, so probably much more automated than what you guys are doing now. Great, we're done. Now the system automatically, and if we focus back on Ian, it calculated, his salary here. And we see January, February blanked out. In March it starts, then drops off in December here. If I scroll over, we see the total compensation, continue scrolling over. We'll see the commission overtime broken out. We see the bonus, and for the taxes and benefits, this is really, really important to understand their software. It now uses that 7.21 FICA rate. Why? Because that's what your budget manager input in the previous template. And really the value that's generated is you're not using links in Excel anymore. Okay? You're storing it and you're retrieving it, which eliminates the potential errors you have with linking spreadsheets, creates quality, and creates a governance structure where your budget manager has these assumptions and they're going to flow through to everyone. And by the way, just to finish this template, FICA, FUTA, SUTA, we have a minimum and max. And you can set up the min-max for 401ks and anything else, so for your workers' comp and anything else associated with it. And then, finally here we have headcount. Great. But a lot of you guys are saying this is fine, but what if I want to budget for more than just administration? Well, inside, and this goes and shows you the flexibility of our tool as well, you can go in and say, hey, I want to see actually these 4 departments, click OK, run it, and now same template, but if this is more of a, hey, essentially the Office of Finance budgets data, now you have administration, here are the full-time, part-time employees, which you guys already saw. It's going to store to the general ledger for administration, right? And obviously the department segment is the one that breaks it out. And right below, finance and accounting, full-time, part-time employees. It's going to store to the general ledger, and sales and marketing. Okay, so really good way for sort of your top-down budgeting process as well. And you can create these assumptions, by the way, and then they can go in and write over them or something like that if you want a combination of both, top-down and bottom-up. Now, last template I want to show before I show you some of the more kind of the advanced modeling techniques and things Solver has to offer within this budgeting module. We're done forecasting. We're done, let's say, with payroll. Maybe just to add one more template, what we want to do is maybe model our capex. And by the way, just kind of my consulting side kicking in, we do have various balance sheet budgeting and forecasting templates. Not many of you guys forecast for your balance sheet in my experience, so I'm not going to show it, but you really should. I think it's really important, and because you have, if you purchase the tool, a way to kind of keep everything in one place, you can create those balance sheet assumptions that will flow through to other parts of your business, and you can really manage your liquidity. What I'll do here is just to open up a capex form here. All same concept here, just adding one more template to the mix where I'll go in, click the run button, okay, and using Excel we just have scroll downs, so you can say, hey, here's what I'm going to buy, computer maybe, here's the department, it's going to go to finance and accounting. You can add a description here, new computers for CFO, and then you can go, here's the purchase price, here's the quantity, and what it does, it's going to go through, oops, sorry about that, missed over here, the purchase month, April, and what it's going to do, it's going to go through and model the capital expense, and then when I scroll over to the right, it goes through and models the depreciation. Okay. And I can continue doing that for my departments and what they buy, and then it's all going to scroll down. It's all going to go down here and store to the general ledger. Okay. So we stored a lot of stuff here. A last and probably, really the template that shows even more functionality is the OPEX, operational expense. You're done with everything. Now it's really a matter of finishing by storing the operational expenses for next year. Back in assignments, I'll go in and open up this expenses with line item details. And by the way, I'm going to show you two functionalities of spreading and using seasonality, adding more detail. I'm showing you this in OpEx just because it's the easiest template to illustrate, but you can leverage this with anything. Anything you need more description of, any templates, you can use this. I'll go in, pick out my parameters here, and maybe now that I'm ready and I'm finished with everything, it's now October, right? So I can scroll down here, pick up October, run this, okay. And what it does is, it gives you the operational expenses for next year. I have some input already because they do a lot of demos. And then over to the right, it pulled in 10 months of actual because it picked up October, right? And 2 months of forecast. Where did that forecast come from? Well, that forecast came from the very first template that I showed to you. Another example. There's no links. You're storing it, and you're pulling it in here for reference. And by the way, it also really neat that it syncs with GP because this actual is coming directly from GP. So you're eliminating the need of copy and pasting and other stuff. So you scroll down here. This is what you're going to budget, but you want to see how for administration, right, where I just budgeted my capex and some employees, how's that all going to flow through? Well, right beneath here, you have the accounts that are budgeted on other forms, okay, which I just showed you. Here's the salary. The capex would be here too. So you can see the total expenses that you budget. And here you can also, by the way, look at the expenses for last year for comparison. Now, all of these are locked, so users cannot input, because what we really want them to do is store data here. Now, you could just type it into Excel. You could go in here and use any spreading that you're used to already in Excel. So I could do something like this. But what I want to do here is go in and say, hey, for office supplies, what we really want to do is add some sort of line item detail, right? So, hey, what exactly are they spending money on? Which office supplies? I'll go in and click this Enter Data button. Really powerful button in BI360, and its purpose is for you to be able to model based on historical trends, correlate, whatever else, and then secondly, which I'll start off with, is adding line item details. Okay? By the way, there's a little charting component here. Once you actually put in budget data, the green's going to change. Here for office supplies, we see 10 months of actual and 2 months of forecast. But what we really want to do here is go in and say, great, we want to add line item details for office supplies. So we want our budget managers to go in and say, hey, we actually spent money on paper, right, in January and May. Okay? And why do we spend so much? Well, maybe because May was the month we hired new staff. What else? Well, we also bought pens and other supplies at Staples. Point is, I'm kind of using just really simple examples, but you're going to be able to do this not only for travel and entertainment and small things, but anything else you need more detail for. Okay, and then what you'll have the option of doing, which I'll show you in just a second, is drilling back into this and seeing that Alex here decided to buy pens for the sales staff. Okay, and then you click Update Excel. Great. those line item details push back, and it now rolled up into the total here. Okay. And then you could also do a comment on the higher level. Now, what else can you do? Let's say now I want to go into the next row here, which happens to be other supplies. Now, for other supplies, I don't need those line item details, and I know it's not going to change much from current year date plus forecast. So what I want to do is go down here and spread it. Okay? Many spreading mechanisms here, by the way, quarterly. I can take the historical average actually of that account and model it. But what I'll do here is I'll copy history. So it takes and the exact same actuals and forecast for as of this year for next year. However, my business is going to grow, so what I want to do is increase each month by 6%. So instead of keying in Excel in every single cell, I go in and increase all of other supplies 7% compared to current year day plus forecast. And then I can also add a comment here. Okay, maybe other supplies include everything except my staples purchases. Okay, great. Update Excel, and now what you've done is create a more granular budgeting process with comments, and you also can account for seasonality without having to live in Excel in every single cell for each month. Same concept now. After you're done, you save that data, and your administration executive is done. Now you're probably wondering, hey, why are some of these green and some of these yellow? And the reason is if I rerun this, right? And by the way, really important, now that I'm rerunning it, it's basically just a report, which means, hey, after each department head inputs his or her own data, if as an administrator, I can just select all the departments and see the consolidated total. Okay? But anyways, getting back to the point, here now for office supplies turned green, and for other supplies it didn't. And the reason is because office supplies has those line item details, right? And if I want and click that data again, click that button again, I can draw back that information that Alex went in there and for office supplies, put data for paper, for pens, and other supplies. Okay, great. Point is everything's linked nicely in the spreadsheet, and very clean way of finishing your budgeting process. Now, FP&A folks in the room that are saying, hey, I really want to do some modeling here. Transition out a little bit. What I'll do is I'll show you actually one of my favorite templates. And there are many other modeling mechanisms here. Really what it's doing is illustrating the power of using Excel, because it really has nice formulas, right? And a lot of times you don't want to lose those. Here I'll go in, and simply the benefit here is because it's linked to a database, I'm now picking the month. So I'll pick in September, clicking this run button, and what this template's going to enable you to do is model your total desired net income, and then it'll adjust each and every single account accordingly. And then you can continue manipulating your data from then. I'll close out of here, but since we picked September, gave you 9 months of actual data consolidated in column H. What it's doing in column I is actually giving you the annualized actual. What that means is, hey, it goes through, and if you look at this, it actually divides the year to date by what's happened last year. So if last year, 60% of your revenue came from the remaining 3 months, it's now going to model this annualized actual to say, hey, based on your current performance and last year's seasonality, your total net income is going to look like it's $515,000. But you're saying, hey, no, we want to see what happens, how each and every single account adjusts if, maybe we acquire a company, great for pro forma modeling, or simply because an executive ran in and said, hey, we're expecting huge growth, so we're going to really be at 600,000 in total as our net income. When I click enter, watch what's going to happen to these columns here on the right hand side. They're all going to change, right? And each account gets adjusted accordingly to model out, how your net income would be 600,000. So it created a forecast for you. Now you can go through, store that data, and maybe push it out to your end users to go through and fix. Now, but maybe I want to do something different. I'll say, yeah, I know I reached that 600,000, but really it's because the revenue needs to grow 15% to reach that. Scroll up and maybe do some what-if analysis, and I see that, hey, my revenue is going to be at 21 mil. Yeah, I mean, not really. I want to do some what-if. Well, what if revenue grows to 20 million? How does that affect my COGS and my expenses? Great. You can see that this adjusted. Maybe just to do a little clearer here, 26%. You can see that. Click enter. This adjusted now to 23 mil. And all of the COGS and expenses adjusted accordingly, okay, to reach that 600,000. Now, add one more layer of complexity, and you're saying, yeah, but I also know my operational expenses here are going to grow 10%, and specifically that the growth in operational expenses is going to happen in sales and marketing because we're just hiring a ton of new people, and we want to model that to be 15%. Click OK. You can see over here where my cursor is. Total purchasing is at 10%. If I scroll up, total HR is at 10%, but sales and marketing now got adjusted, so it's 26.5. And along with those adjustments, literally every single one of these accounts got adjusted accordingly. We just used a bunch of mathematical formulas to reach that 600,000. Okay. Great. You can save this, push this out to your department heads, and then they can go in here and say, hey, yeah, there's no way legal's not going to grow this high. Let's adjust this by 8%. Watch what's going to happen in the what if. It's going to lower, and each account's going to also lower. Well, and some are going to obviously increase to reach that 600,000. Okay. Really neat tool for what if. Now, if you're currently doing something like this in Excel, great. What do you do next month? You're going to have to redo all the formulas. Whereas here, all you're doing is saying, great, time to reforecast. Click Run. Here's October in column H now instead of September, and now the huge order didn't come through. And what's going to happen if we're at 400,000? As I click that, everything adjusts accordingly. All right. Want to finish off by going back to the PowerPoint and looking at the architecture one more time, and then opening it up for the last 5 minutes or so for Q&A. So, what we learned today, sorry about that, let me kind of go back to the architecture. What we learned today is really, we took a look at these two pieces. So how do you deploy this? Your option. You can either do it in Excel or the web. I started with the web, okay, and then showed you Excel. Now, what I promise to get back to is when I show the payroll template, you're probably saying, hey, my employee information doesn't reside in GP. It's completely fine. So you can integrate the payroll system, be it UltiPro, ADP, Ceridian, whatever other payroll system you use. You can push that into our data mart. It would help you, FMT would help set that up. And then, if you do have other data sources, say, you have your sales people that you want to budget, or you have a specific point of sale system, anything like that, where you need that supporting information brought in to accurately do your budgeting, you bring that into the data warehouse or data mart, however you want to look at it, and then you use our front-end tools to push that data back. And that's really the basis of it. So what I want to do now is open it up for a few questions. But before I do that, I know it's so overwhelming, and again, right, I'm just showing you, because we have a lot of different industries on people from different industries on this demo, I'm just showing you a high-level functionality perspective, hopefully illustrating the benefits of using this as opposed to Excel, and just showing you the user interface. What we're more than happy to do is set up a customized demo and answer any personalized questions specific on your requirements. So, without further ado, Kevin, any questions? If you can read them off to me, I'll go through and address them. And because I took up almost the entire time, the ones that I don't get to, we'll go through and make sure we set up a time for us.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alex. Hopefully everybody kind of saw the power of BI360 in action for budgeting and forecasting, and some of the other information that you can do with that data. From a question standpoint, really there's only one that just popped on in, and it was and Alex, this is probably similar to the question that you got asked at the end of last session is. If budget season is typically, we need to have budgets out to department heads and other people by the beginning of September, when should we plan on implementing BI360 if we want to use it for this budget season? So I guess it's more of an implementation question, but having the system completely up, running, and ready for use by September 1.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. Look, they're obvious with any of these tools. There's going to be implementation, and I hate answering it, but it just depends on how many templates you have. If you have a lot of various templates and that are really customized, the really nice thing is you can do them, right? Because it says Excel, so it's really flexible and easy to customize, but it's going to be longer than if you're saying, hey, all the templates you have are a perfect fit. Typically, few-month deployment. It's not, for those of you guys that are familiar with the Hyperions of the world or those tools, not at all like that. And another huge benefit is having FMT. They're certified on our software. From the implementations, we've had, they've done an excellent job. And they have consultants that know your ERP system, that probably know your other data sources. So they're at a great position, and being a partner, they're really well suited to implement the right way. And they'll go through, maybe build some of your really complex templates if you want that, or just go through and train you. So typically the implementation process. You guys should definitely talk to FMT and see what's the best approach. Being a hybrid, like they create some of the templates and train you on it, or just training. They'll go through and recommend the best approach.
Well, that's all the questions that we have, Alex, and actually that's all the time that we have as well. So I want to thank everybody for attending today. As we've done in the past, this session will be up on our YouTube channel probably sometime no later than tomorrow. So definitely look for that there. Encourage the folks that didn't get to attend to kind of watch that content there. And then we'll be giving everybody in attendance today just a quick call either later on today or tomorrow at the latest, just to check in, make sure that this is what you were looking for, and see if there's anything else that you might need any assistance with. So with that, Alex, thanks for taking an hour and showing us what Solver BI360 can do to solve budgeting and forecasting needs. And we look forward to seeing you all on our next session. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.